To unpack the story further, we're joined live now by Newzroom Afrika US correspondent Simon Marks. Simon, thank you very much for your time. We know that, of course, at this particular point, there are a number of movements. But talk to us about what Washington is saying, because there clearly are no signs of de-escalation.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, we've got some breaking news. Just as we were coming on air, within the last few minutes, US Central Command down in Florida has announced the first deaths of American service personnel in this conflict. As of about half an hour ago, according to US Central Command, 3 US service members have been killed in action, and 5 are seriously wounded as part of what the White House is calling Operation Epic Fury. Several others, they say, sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions and are in the process of being returned to duty. The statement goes on to say that major combat operations continue and our response is ongoing. Central Command describes the situation as fluid, and out of respect to the families, they say they will be withholding additional information, including the identities of America's fallen warriors, until 24 hours after the next of kin have been informed. So those are the first American fatalities in this conflict that we are aware of. We do not yet know under what circumstances they occurred, but there were reports just within the last couple of hours that the Iranians claimed that they had fired 4 missiles at the USS Abraham Lincoln, a massive aircraft carrier, not the largest one, that's the Gerald Ford, which is also in the region, but a massive aircraft carrier that moved into the region several days ago. Now, we are not hearing yet from the Pentagon whether the deaths of those 3 servicemen and the injuries of 5 others were on board the USS Abraham Lincoln. Remember, the United States has no boots on the ground that we know of in Iran. This is all being conducted, this warfare, from a distance by the US and Israeli militaries. But for the Trump administration, that news is going to focus the minds of the public here in the United States very quickly on a conflict for which the President of the United States has not prepared them, and the consequences of which he has not fully briefed them, because even the administration yesterday, as this military action got underway, was struggling to demonstrate any identifiable strategy beyond a desire to try and kill as many senior figures within the Iranian leadership, including, of course, the country's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, whose death was confirmed by Iranian state media late last night here on the east coast of the United States. Beyond that, it was very unclear that there was any kind of strategy guiding this conflict. And as Iran retaliates, the red flag of revenge now flying wherever regime officials are able to hoist the banner in Tehran. Threats of revenge now targeting political leaders, including President Trump here in the United States, and of course the American and Israeli militaries. For the Trump administration, and remember, President Trump didn't address the American people last night. We've only seen him in that 2:30 in the morning on Saturday 8-minute video address announcing the commencement of major combat operations. Questions here for the Trump administration about precisely what they are doing in Iran now that this conflict is taking the lives of American members of the armed forces are going to mount up very quickly, and pressure is going to be brought to bear at least on the President of the United States to explain what the plan is, given that absolutely nobody here in Washington can identify one.
Yeah, let's talk about the significance of the death of the supreme leader in Iran. Some are celebrating his death, while some are very concerned about these developments and the intention of the US.
Yeah, I mean, I think the United States will take comfort from some of the celebrations that have been seen on the streets of Iran, because, of course, President Trump says it's over to the American people, to the Iranian people. It's up to them now to rise up and take control of their own country. But they will also be cognizant here in Washington of the fact that there have been signs of mourning on the part of supporters of the regime. 40 days of mourning, of course, declared, even as the Iranian leadership gathers to try and determine what the transition is going to look like. I think the measures that we've heard about today are stopgap measures, because the Assembly of Experts, that clerical council, has to meet formally to decide who is going to be the next supreme leader and who is going to be appointed to other key positions as a result of killings that took place at the hands of the American and Israeli military yesterday. So, you know, President Trump telling the Iranian people to rise up, warning the remnants of the regime, well, not the remnants, the substantial portion of the regime that is still in place, that while the top security man in the Iranian government has threatened significant reprisals against the United States, the president took to social media to say they better not do that, because if they do, we will hit them with a force that has never been seen before. Well, that's a very different message from President Trump about 9 hours ago than the one that we were hearing from him late on Saturday, when he was talking about looking for a possible off-ramp in Iran and potentially accepting the possibility that he would simply do an enormous amount of damage to the top of the regime, and then come and do more damage again in several years' time, when they had rebuilt their nuclear and ballistic missile program. I mean, those were his words in an interview on the telephone to the website Axios here on Saturday afternoon. So for America's allies and partners in the region, and, you know, we've obviously seen the chaos that this is causing all over the region as Iran sends ballistic missiles in the direction of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Qatar, Bahrain, and numerous other locations that are partners and allies with the United States. The pressure from them is also going to rise on the president to clarify what the strategy is here. And the American public, certainly core members of his Make America Great Again movement, are also piling pressure on him. If you look at the feed on X of former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, who's very much positioning herself as an alternative leader of MAGA, Donald Trump's grassroots political movement, she has reposted on her social media account with approval a post by another MAGA influencer who says, "Epic Fury," remember the White House is calling this Operation Epic Fury, "Epic Fury is what many Americans feel when, instead of what they voted for, they get yet another war in the Middle East." She's also retweeted another MAGA grassroots influencer who has posted, "I don't remember voting to free Iran. I voted to make America great again." So the president's going to be feeling pressure from a whole variety of different sources. And we still don't know here, it's just after 10 o'clock in the morning here, we still don't know if we're going to hear from him today. Is he going to make a televised address to the nation today? He's down in Mar-a-Lago, supposedly returning to Washington, D.C. this evening. Will we hear from him? And if we do, will we get a cogent sense of what the American plan is to avoid being drawn into the kind of quagmire that the president was elected to avoid?
Earlier, you touched on the uncertainty of the future of Iran. But do you get a sense that Trump will keep his hands off Iran, given that he now says at the end of this, Iran will be for its people to take?
I mean, it's just impossible to know at this point, because the strategy is unknowable. I mean, you know, Trump supporters say, you don't understand, the president of the United States is playing four-dimensional chess. He's a step ahead of everybody else. Why would he announce the plan? I mean, to most observers watching this, this appears to be a geopolitical game of 52 card pickup. Throw all the cards in the air, see where they land, and then hope that you end up with a better hand coming out of all of this than you went into it with. I mean, remember that he was engaged in negotiations with the Iranians until only Thursday, and Omani representatives who were shuttling between the American and Iranian delegations at those negotiations say that they believe there was significant movement on the part of Iran and an opportunity for a deal to be done, and that has now been squandered by this military action. Remember, too, that Donald Trump was the man who pulled America out of the Iran nuclear deal in his first term in office, saying it was the worst deal that had ever been done and that America was going to wash its hands of it. But having removed the United States from the Iran nuclear deal, that was the point at which the Iranians then prevented international inspectors from in any fashion monitoring their uranium enrichment processing. So there are many critics here that say Donald Trump is the architect of his own problem in Iran. And with that breaking news that we just got as we were coming on air, that American service personnel are now dying in this conflict, 3 dead, 5 injured. We don't know the precise circumstances of where and how they were injured, but there's talk of shrapnel, so that suggests it was the result of some kind of incoming missile strike on either an American military base in the region or on one of those 2 aircraft carriers that the United States has deployed. All of that, I think, is going to result in the White House coming under massive questioning from members of Congress who have largely been sidelined by all of this, and from members of the public, and particularly from his grassroots voting bloc, who say, this is not what we put you in the White House to do.
Newzroom Afrika US correspondent Simon Marks, thank you very